Assalamualaikum students, this video is regarding November 2023 exam paper, variant 2-1, it's question 5. Part A, explain the difference between an import tariff and import quota and consider why a government would choose an import tariff rather than an import quota as a tool of protection in international trade. So protection, local industries need to be protected against imports, and there could be tools which can help protect local industry, and the two famous tools are tariffs and quotas. So the question is about them. So for knowledge understanding, we need to identify that both these tools, import quotas as well as import quotas, they are meant to restrict imports to protect the local industry and jobs in the local market. Now the difference between the two: import due tariff is a tax or a duty that is imposed on imports to make them expensive. Import quota, on the other hand, is a physical limit on the quantity that can be imported in a country. To restrict imports, a government may increase import tariffs or decrease import quotas. Now candidates often confuse this, and they may say that quotas need to be raised to discourage import. Quotas should be decreased. Limit the quantity, the maximum quantity that can be imported needs to be decreased to discourage import. On the other hand, tariffs need to be raised. So this is what enough for 3 marks for knowledge and understanding. Now we go for the diagrams and analysis. Import tariff raises the cost of importing goods. It shifts the supply curve upward or to the left and raises the price of imports and reduces the quantity of import. So we make a simple diagram, and this quantity of imports along x-axis. Even if you write just Q, that should be enough, and just P along y-axis, or someone may write average price of import. Downward sloping demand curve for imports, upward rising supply curve for imports, equilibrium price of imports, equilibrium quantity of imports. Now, because of the import tariff, it's just like a tax on import. It shifts supply curve upward, raises the price to P1 and lowers the quantity to Q1. So imports fall and imports become expensive, and consumers are prompted, they are forced, they are tempted to shift to local goods which become relatively cheaper. Now that is a simple looking diagram for import tariff. I may make another diagram for you towards the end of discussion on part A, which will be a little complicated diagram for tariff, but there will be additional information. So expensive imports force consumer to shift to relatively cheaper domestically made goods and services. Import quota, the diagram for that. The import quotas physically limit the quantity. Now, if we look at this diagram, quantity of import on x-axis, price of import y-axis, downward sloping demand curve of import, upward rising supply curve of import, initial price, initial quantity of imports. And when an import quota is given, it not only shifts the supply curve, it makes it perfectly inelastic, as quantity beyond this cannot be imported. So this will be the supply curve after the quota is imposed. Now this raises the price to P1, reduces the quantity to Q1. Now both tariffs and quotas have done something similar. One, they both have raised the price of import, and they both have reduced the quantity of import. However, tariffs have done so by making imports expensive, whereas quotas have restricted imports by putting a physical limit on the quantity that can be imported. Evaluation. Import tariffs are more effective when PED is high, because import tariffs make imports expensive, and consumers will respond to these expensive prices, and they will buy significantly less quantity of import if PED for imports is high. However, if PED is low, import quota could be more effective. Import quota is also less effective in a case where the purpose of the government is to generate revenues, as import tariffs give more revenues compared to quotas. Now, there's another diagram of import tariff you can make. It's a complicated diagram, but this is important for multiple choice questions. So this is quantity of the product, not just of import. It is the demand for the domestic demand, and I call it home demand, DH, home demand, and I write supply home, it is a home supply, and I write supply curve for imports, and that is supply curve for imports. Before any tariffs, quantity demanded was Q1, quantity supplied was Q2, domestic supply was only Q2, and domestic quantity was Q1, and the imports were Q1 minus Q2. Before the tariffs, imports were Q1 and Q2. After the tariff, on import, the supply curve for import shifts upward. There is no impact or shift in the supply curve for home goods because the tariff is on only imports. The quantity demanded falls from Q1 to Q2. Quantity supplied rises from Q2 to Q4. Imports fall from Q1 to Q2, and imports are now just Q2. M is imports, Q2 minus Q4 is the new level import. Imports are less. Now this shaded area is the import tariff, that is revenue, because this is per unit tariff, this line is per unit tariff multiplied by the quantity, and this is the tariff revenue. Now that is another diagram you can make, that import tariffs are reducing the quantity of import. However, that is quota. This diagram is for quota and this diagram is for tariffs. So, but a simpler diagram, this is also acceptable for showing the impact of tariff. So this was part A, and now we move to the part B. Assess whether the theories of absolute and comparative advantage are substantially undermined by their various limitations. So we'll talk about these theories, what are their advantages and what are their limitations, and then we give conclusion. So 4 parts to this answer. 1, what are these theories? What are their advantages? What are their limitations? And a conclusion. So absolute advantage, theory of absolute advantage, where a country can produce more of a product by using the same amount of resources. Now that is a very simple definition of absolute advantage. If you can make 10 units in 1 hour and your friend can make 8 units in 1 hour, you have an absolute advantage, because in same amount of resources, that is 1 hour, you are producing 10 whereas your friend is making 8. So you have an absolute advantage in that. A comparative advantage definition is 3 keywords. The 3 keywords: lower opportunity cost. Now that is a keyword, that is a key statement, key phrase one should use when explaining what is a comparative advantage. Lower opportunity cost. Now I'll give you a numeric example to explain this. But before that, the 4 assumptions, very important. In case there is a question about theories of absolute and comparative advantage, you must give the definitions, which I have already been discussed with you, and must give 4 assumptions and then a numerical example. So 4 assumptions. It's a simple model, only 2 countries and 2 products. Transport costs are 0. The production cost always rises at a constant rate. So meaning you make 10 units in 1 hour, you make 20 units in 2 hours, and 30 in 3 hours, and 40 in 4 hours. That is a constant cost. It is not happening that in the second hour you become more experienced and in the first hour you make 10, but in the second you make 12. Now then this assumption will not hold true. Similarly, your friend can make 8 units in 1 hour, 16 in 2 hours, 24 in 3 hours, and 32 in 4 hours. Constant cost, and production possibility curve is a straight line. And of course, there are no restrictions on exports and imports, and there is completely free trade. Now these are the 4 assumptions for these 2 theories. And then we must take or give a numerical example. The numerical example I've given, I've chosen 2 countries, America and Brazil, and 2 products, wheat and coffee. America, with the same resources, can produce either 30 wheat or 30 coffee. Brazil, on the other hand, can produce either 10 wheat or 20 coffee. So if you compare America and Brazil for wheat, America has absolute advantage in wheat. Coffee, America has absolute advantage in coffee as well. So America has absolute advantage in both wheat and coffee. Brazil has absolute disadvantage in both wheat and coffee, as Brazil can produce fewer wheat and fewer coffee compared to America with using same amount of resources. But if we look at the absolute advantage for wheat as well as for coffee, America has slightly bigger advantage in the production of wheat, and whereas Brazil has a slightly less disadvantage in the production of coffee. Brazil has disadvantage in both, but less disadvantage in production of coffee. So we say America has comparative advantage in wheat, Brazil has comparative advantage in coffee. Let me give you another example to explain the difference between absolute and comparative advantage. Let's assume in an airline there are two pilots. One is a senior pilot and one is a junior pilot. The junior pilot is pretty good at flying 777, but he doesn't know a thing about flying A380, which is a bigger plane. Where senior pilot is comfortable in running or flying both planes, and that is 777 Boeing and A380. If we compare the advantage, senior pilot has absolute advantage in both flying both Boeing 777 and A380, whereas junior pilot has absolute disadvantage in flying both 777 and A380. But if both planes have to go for flights, maybe 777 is going from Dubai to Cairo and A380 is going from Dubai to JFK. Who will fly which plane? So if we say that senior pilot has absolute advantage in both 777 and A380, he should be flying both planes. That's not possible. He has to give up one. So where is the opportunity cost lowest? If he goes and takes a flight to Cairo and flies Boeing 777, the opportunity cost is much higher, as there won't be any pilot available for A380, or the lives of passengers flying on A380 will be in danger if the junior pilot is given the job of flying A380. The opportunity cost is lowest if the senior pilot takes A380 to JFK and the junior pilot takes Boeing 777 to Cairo. Then this is the comparative advantage theory, that senior pilot has absolute advantage in both planes, but bigger advantage is in A380. Junior pilot has absolute disadvantage in both, but smaller disadvantage in flying smaller disadvantage in flying Boeing 777. So that's another example I've given. So now we show diagram 1 shows the PPC for America and diagram 2 shows PPC for Brazil. So wheat and coffee, along x-axis we take wheat, along x-axis we take y-axis we take coffee. We draw a PPC 30 wheat or 30 coffee. Whereas Brazil, wheat and coffee. So if we look at the PPC for Brazil, Brazil can either make 10 wheat or 20 coffee. So this is the PPC for America, the black one, 30 wheat or 30 coffee, and diagram 2 shows the blue one. It is for Brazil, wheat, 10 wheat or 20 coffee. Before specialization, America produces 18 wheat. We are assuming that it produces 18 wheat. Now for 1 unit of wheat, 1 unit of coffee has to be given up. So 1 wheat opportunity cost is 1 coffee, and to produce 18 wheat, America will have to give up 18 coffee. So they can produce 12 coffee when they produce 18 wheat. So 18 is this area. Opportunity cost of 18 wheat is 18 coffee. On the other hand, we assume that Brazil was producing 8 wheat before specialization. 1 wheat has an opportunity cost of 2 coffee. 8 wheat would have an opportunity cost of 16 coffee. So they can have to give up 16 wheat, 16 coffee to produce 8 units of wheat. So they can produce only 4 units of coffee. So what is the total output of wheat before specialization? How many units of wheat are being made by both countries? 18 wheat by America and 8 wheat by Brazil. 18 plus 8 was the total output of wheat was 18 plus 8, 26 wheat. Whereas total output of coffee was 12 coffee by America and 4 coffee by Brazil, 16 coffee. So total output of the world, as we are assuming there are only 2 countries in the world, total output of wheat was 26 and total output of coffee was 16 after specialization. America has comparative advantage in wheat. America should specialize in wheat. If America specializes in wheat, world output of wheat goes up from 26 to 30. As America is concentrating only on the production of wheat, the output of wheat would go up from 26 to 30. Coffee. Brazil should specialize in coffee, and if Brazil concentrates all its resources, focuses only on the production of coffee, the output again goes up from 20 to 20 coffee. So just look at this. This simple numerical example has proven that if these theories are used and everyone does a job in which he is better than others, world will become a better place to live. The total output of both goods, wheat and coffee, has gone up. For wheat, it has gone up from 26 to 30, and for coffee, it has gone up from 16 to 20. You must appreciate that even before this specialization, both countries were fully utilizing their resources, but they were able to produce a maximum of only 26 wheat and 16 coffee. No new resources have been invented. No improvement in technology. There is no efficiency now, greater efficiency. We are still utilizing the same resources, but since resources are being used by countries in which they are better than others, and thus greater efficient allocation of resources, even with the same resources, same level of technology, world output of both wheat and coffee has gone up. Now this simple numerical example is the biggest argument in the favor of specialization and free trade. So that's what we have written over here, and I explain this additional note. So what are the benefits of resource allocation becomes efficient because of these theories? These theories encourage specialization. This results in greater world output. It opens up opportunities for free trade. Consumers get a greater variety of goods at comparatively lower prices because Brazil is producing coffee in which they are better than America, comparatively better. America is producing wheat in which they are comparatively better. So they are able to produce these goods at lower cost, and hence they will be able to sell them at lower prices. These are the benefits. However, there are limitations of these theories. More reliance on a limited range of products. Diversification may not be possible. You may not be able to enter new areas, new products. For example, IT. Pakistan does not have a comparative advantage in IT at the moment. But this area has huge promise for Pakistan, huge potential. These theories do not allow you to enter areas which are new for you, which may be harmful, or which may be harmful for the growth prospects of the country. So, a strategic industry. For example, Pakistan has a war ordnance factory where Pakistan produces war planes and various types of weapons. Now, Pakistan does not have a comparative advantage in producing weapons, but we need weapons, as our location is such that we are surrounded by countries which are not very friendly to us. So we need weapons. We cannot depend for their imports on other countries. We have to produce them even when we do not have a comparative advantage. That's another limitation of this theory. The assumptions of these theories are also not realistic. The first assumption, that there are only 2 countries and 2 products. It's a very simple looking assumption. Real world is a lot more complex and a lot more complicated, and these theories may not hold value in real world complicated situations. Transport costs could be very high. So maybe I can make a product at a cost of 10 and my neighbor can make it at a cost of 8. I will still prefer to make it myself, because when I import it from my neighbor at a price of 8, and when it comes to my country, including the transportation cost, the cost goes beyond 10. I may not be interested to buy even a low cost product because of the transport cost. The production costs are also not constant, as there could be economies of scale, which is an A2 topic, or there could be, we may say that there could be a fatigue, that I am making maybe 10 units in 1 hour, but in 2 hours I may be making only 18. In the second hour, I may be more tired, or I may not be as productive as I was while working in the first hour of my day. And of course, there is no free trade in the world, and there are many restrictions which are tangible as well as intangible restrictions on trade. So assumptions are not realistic as well. Another situation where this theory may not be followed, another limitation is the infant industry. Infant industry is a baby industry. It's an industry which is not established yet, and it needs some time before we expose it to hostile foreign competition, and we need to give it a support, and we really cannot go for these theories at such an initial stage. And for example, if Pakistan starts making electric vehicles at the moment, we may say that Pakistan is a high cost producer. They're producing low quality cars and selling them at a very high price. But with passage of time, Pakistani producers may be able to earn and may be able to learn and may be able to produce better quality, low price electric vehicles. But for that time being, they need protection and they need government help. And for that time period, we may have to ignore the theory of comparative advantage, and we may have to allow production even in this high cost production area. These theories are helpful. They encourage world output and improve living standards, but both these theories have limitations, and they do not always define and explain the pattern of trade. And sometimes we do not import goods which others can make at low cost. We prefer to make them ourselves for better future, or because they are strategically important goods for us, or maybe we do not have good cordial relationship with the trading relationship with the other countries. So there could be various reasons that we may produce goods domestically even when we are a high cost producer and we do not enjoy a comparative advantage in them. Now this concludes my discussion on this question. I hope you like this video. Please do share it with others who may be interested in A-level economics, and do subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much.